I started paddling when I was 12 years old with Dolan Canoe Club. And of course, we've all been taught we're trying to pull ourselves past the blade and move the boat forward. We also are trying to pick the boat out of the water and send it forward as if we're pole vaulters launching off of our point, getting up in the air. That's the one part that I think is most paddlers do not think of when they're paddling, because they're taught to keep that top arm up, don't let it drop. And what happens is they become single dimension paddlers where they're just trying to move the boat past the blade instead of actually sink the blade in and catapult themselves past. So, with that, starting a stroke, it's all about locking on up front. You've probably all heard about sticking a blade in mud, sticking it, getting that stuck in place, and be able to use your body to send yourself past the blade. Again, comes into using the bigger body parts to, one, not feel lactate, be able to do it longer, faster, and generate the most power. So when it comes to locking onto the water and paddling in general, I like to try to find a feeling to associate with what I'm doing. So the most general idea for locking onto the water I'm thinking about is if I'm just put the blade out, stretching the core, leaning my body on it. It's not just my arm pressure, but as the arm over it, as if I'm stretching that abdomen. Every stroke I take, I'm thinking of feeling that stretch through the core. No matter if you're doing an 8 or 8, 6 or 8, a tap, a long pull, feeling that stretch no matter what. If you can get that body and feel that stretch on there, you're going to have a lock on the water. From there, once you have that lock through the core, the next step is to send ourselves past and over the blade. So feel the stretch with the top arm also. It's using it as levers, just like a pole vaulter. We're trying to launch ourselves. You can all grab a partner right now. We'll do a quick drill of like the feeling of that stretch. If you guys want to just share paddles, throw the ball. Put some resistance.
Well, let's practice. You gotta do it right now.
Bottom arm. Pulling you towards me, right?
Yeah. So as I'm going through the water, no catch, soft purchase. If you're getting there, you're locked on, you're like, oh shit, how am I going to get this out quick? You still can. If you're using that body turn, once you're turning, your power is done. You've generated enough power to move the boat, and it's going to be fluid through the water because you can only move as fast as your body lets you. Too often our arms get ahead of us and we're not keeping that lock on the water, and we start throwing bubbles, sitting ducks, just having a terrible time. So this is just all about holding water and keeping that feel through the body in order to generate power. And we are turning. Paddling, you're doing two different elements where you're applying power down and through the whole stroke. So that's why you're locking, but you're also essentially bringing it down. It's not that your blade's going down, but if you are actually launching and sending the boat forward, the boat will be raising. It's like as if you were sitting up. So if I was sitting down on the ground and asked my buddy to pick me up, I could try to do it with my arms, but it's really hard to keep that lock on the body and lift myself up without the arms. So that's essentially what we're trying to do, is get down on the water and lift ourselves up with only using the body, where our arms are the levers. Just holding that core together, that pressure down on the water, and sending ourselves up and over. Just got asked about legs, and that's the next part to it. So what I was always taught was having whatever side you're on, that foot forward, and using the bottom of the boat for pressure. But Lanikai, 2 years ago, we flew out Gerard, the old coach from Shell, and he was actually telling us to lock our legs on the gunnel. Like, okay, why are you doing that? At the same time, if we're really trying to launch the boat, but we're sitting on a seat above the water, locking ourselves to the gunnel is the only way we can actually connect ourselves in order to pick the boat up and send it forward. Now with the unlimited boats, you know, we're getting footboards and everything, and it's becoming more like kayaking at the same time. I'm trying to lock my legs onto those gunnels and hold the boat as if the crew I'm in ran up onto some reef. I'm going to be able to put that blade in on the reef and pick that boat up myself and get ourselves off. Now I got my legs locked. How do I connect it up through the core? What I was talking about, where you say, well, where's the rotation? If it's not in the shoulder turn getting down, where do I rotate if I'm just coming forward? And that's where I think it's all about getting the hip flexor to rotate from that point, where you can still keep your legs locked and have pressure on a footboard or the bottom of the boat, but you're turning from there and being able to get that top half around so you can still be square but turn using the core through the muscles. So that's where your rotation, your hold, and also your legs come in. So when you do get into the unlimited boat, you are trying to apply pressure with the legs through the stroke, but at the same time of your rotation, so there's no push.
Not everybody's going to be in on a limited, so if we're in the regular,
I'm in the regular,
right,
I'll put one foot forward a little bit, but I'm still not just sending it back each time. I'm keeping them as locked to the gunnel as I possibly can. I'm locking it, and it's instead of like a push, it's more of a body. I can't put words to it. It's like you're a leg hold and through. Where I know a lot of people are thinking like they're, you know, kicking off. The only time it's actually helping the boat is if it's the same speed as through your stroke. So I feel like the legs are more rotation and a hold, that if you can apply pressure through without kicking down and sending the boat down, then it's a positive. The progression of paddlers, you know, it's from a novice to just getting used to paddling in general, to not having a hold and you're just egg beating water, to actually getting that hold what this corrects also with getting that catch is once you put your body on that, you're committed. You're sitting up, the power is done. You never run into the problem of guys trying to be too far up front, have no power, and then all of a sudden it comes on, you know? And so you see a lot of people where they're in time, but their power is in different places. So that's where, if you are putting your body pressure on, if you're putting your body on the beginning of the stroke,
You got it.
you can't go wrong. Power through. This is a good example of my kayaking stroke. I thought I needed to be up front and be so powerful, shoot up with power, and it would just come back down. So essentially I was just and not sending the boat. What you're talking about is we want to shoot up the power with everyone locked on and keep that going as much as we can. So that's where the novice to the elite, first we're trying to get that lock on, get that through at a lower rate, and then once the rate starts picking up and the feel of the crew is coming together, that's where it starts working on how much sooner can I get it out to where it's affecting the boat positively. And that's just two. I don't like thinking of forcing the exit. I think if we have speed in the boat, the speed is going to naturally allow me to rate. I do power before rate, you know. If I'm at a 60, and a lot of strokers can contest to this, is if you have a lot of power, you want to bring the rate up. It's so easy. You actually have to hold back to bring it up. So that's where, you know, I think getting back to like where to get out is first working on having that hold, and even if it's long at a lower rate, to the point where people are slowly fine-tuning that power so it's compact, but at the same time it's a strong through. There's not just a hit at the front and nothing off the back. If you asked me to do a clinic 2 years ago, I would have been teaching you turning that shoulder, but everything is changing, that I've found myself to effectively use the body. I need a shorter blade to do so, and to be up front, because if I'm longer, I might be able to get up front with a more of a positive angle, but my power is not there. This length, I feel, is allowing me to sink in enough positive, at the same time get out soon enough without going too negative. The return is like the bigger blade, especially in bigger water, you're sitting 3 and 4, you feel like you're doing shoulder shrugs because you have to get that blade out of the water, and that's where this comes into. So to be paddling forward at all times, that's where I think a shorter blade really helps. One idea that registered in my head was someone saying like, you're opening a pill jar. If I just try to press down, I'm not opening it. If I just try to turn it, I'm not opening it. I got to do it simultaneously, together. Boom. So the same thing is, you're on it and you're applying power through, and that's where that top arm, you know, it is important to hold that pressure on that top arm through the stroke. At the same time, it's not the top arm taking over and sending the blade through the water negative. So that's why everything is timed together through the body and holding water as if you're slowly. When I'm racing, I'm thinking in a 6-man, if I'm doing more than 80%, I'm pulling way too hard, and usually the boat won't feel as good. So that's where I think, like, if every crew can find that feeling at 60, or maybe they're at 58, maybe they're at 62, where they are essentially all doing the same thing, launching the boat, that's your go-to. In the race, once the boat feels like shit, you bring it down to that and work back up. The same thing in any practice is, one thing I've learned through kayaking is, you know, once just baby steps up. And that's the time to get even deeper and go at the speed of the boat. If you're just trying to fight through it, you're essentially just wasting all your energy until your boat nose gets down. So I think the deeper is actually when you're taking the big stroke and getting a lock, it's actually easy because you're breathing and you're using the body holding. So yeah, every time you're in the flat water, most of the time you're in the ocean, you want that full blade buried at the entry so that you are giving yourself the best chance to actually hold the line. Our Ironman race, you know, we turned that buoy. What we've been working out here with kind of a tighter, had some power where we could really use a lower rate and launch on. When we turned in Mission, you had water dumping out on us, and with that we had to bring up the rate naturally to actually get on it. So things are always changing, and that's why the stroker is gotta play with it, and essentially they're just setting it up for everyone else so they can work, maintain, but also catch the bumps. The other thing is with crews that aren't so good at catching bumps is they start too late, overwork, die for the next one. So you're in this cycle of not catching anything, where if you are just thinking the next time you're in the boat together, whoever's calling it, and trying to call it earlier, better chance of getting on, especially with these boats. Everything takes longer than if I'm on my surf ski or on a one-man, where I can kind of wait and go do and then sit on it. To six-man, everyone's got to be on the same page, so you've got to start it early so you can build that momentum to get on it. And of course you need power, so that's where I think what we've been working on most is like thinking we're off the wave, on the back of it, you're always looking in front, seeing that next ledge, you're trying to stay on top of it, generate power, and once your boat is coming up, that's when you're essentially getting the rate up, because the speed of the wave is picking up as well. Essentially, like if you were doing a basketball on your finger, you know, you get it going and you're tapping, but at the same time, that doesn't mean we're just poking in and like, oh, we're tapping. The boat's gonna sit. So that's where that compacting that power and doing only what you need to, like that 80% to feel that, you know. So that's a thing to play with too, is once the boat is planning, it's like, how much more do we actually have to do to hold this? And then of course you're going to try to then add power to make it go faster, and then how do we maintain this? And